everyone. Welcome to episode 81 of Formidable Opponents, a show that pits three people who have known each other virtually their entire lives in a series of conversations as we argue what is best in a variety of fun, engaging, and critical pop culture topics we all debate about. I'm Randall, and with me, as always, Bob and Joseph, and this week's episode is Worst TV Series Finale. They can't all be Breaking Bad. Some are just bad. TV series finales are a tricky and oftentimes unfair measurement of a series. For this episode, we are mainly talking about successful TV series that went on for several seasons, introduce characters that have become a part of our nostalgia and pop culture lore, and have been continuously visited in syndication. What I'm saying is that these shows were all cornerstones of TV past. And although we are talking disparagingly about their endings, that only goes to show our adoration for the many hours spent investing and escaping with them. Also, to be fair, if something was still good, it more than likely would not end. So we've come to associate a slow burn with many of these TV series. The jumping the shark moments where the shine lost its luster. New characters replaced old favorites who left to conquer other mediums, leaving a legion of fans trying to figure out the tied loose ends. Listen, the difference between a disappointing end to a movie compared to a TV series is completely different. You can get over your 2-hour investment and just be annoyed, but with a TV series, you watch these characters grow. You went through the motions of seasons of tropes, heartbreaks, wins, losses, storylines, and arcs. We identified with them because we had years to bear witness to that evolution. This week, Formidable Opponents discusses and debates worst TV series finale. As always, I'm joined by two guys whom I can only hope are in a restaurant together when Journey's Don't Stop Believing is being played. Bob and Joseph, how are you guys doing?
What's going on, everybody? How's everybody doing tonight?
You know how much of a pain in the ass it is to get red highlights out of your hair after that fucking emo show?
By the way, we do have a listener email we'll get to at the end about last week's show, so we're excited about that. I know you guys are ready to respond to that as well.
But if they feel vindicated.
Right now, we're talking about TV series finales, and let's start off with the opening questions, guys. What element of a bad ending bothers you most about a TV series when it ends badly?
Too many plot holes that weren't, resolved or something, and sometimes that happens, more than others. But there's a few different things. But if we're talking like the one that's gonna piss me off the most is when something is left unanswered, big time, like either a character that disappeared or just what the fuck happened to Susie, something like that.
She went upstairs and became a porn star like that girl from Family Matters.
Oh my goodness.
What about you, Bob?
When it doesn't quite fit the rest of the season or the rest of the series, you know what I mean? A lot of these TV shows, they take you along a path, and then for some reason, some asshole somewhere, some writer says, it'd be really cool if we just change the entire direction of the show for that last episode and leave everybody, scratching their heads like, what the fuck was that? I hate when they do that, just follow the path, you know what I mean? Keep along with kind of similar storylines. Yes, you can have a twist. Yes, you can kill characters off, but don't do something out of left field that leaves your audience like, what the fuck? Like you said, invested so much time in the show.
I think with me, I agree with both of you. I think with me is when a TV show overstays its welcome. There's a lot of TV shows we're going to talk about. Some TV shows went over, they should have ended 2 or 3 seasons earlier. Kids on the show had gray stubble by the time the TV series was ending. It was just the old formula was sort of wasted, and there were a lot of things that just didn't hit. Like, I think a TV show is like a good NBA player or a good football player. You have X amount of seasons to be at your prime. And then once you levy off and you tail off, your commitment to the team and how they utilize you has to change. But with TV shows, it's usually like, well, once you're off your prime, you're done. I mean, the audience has moved on. Ratings are down. People aren't invested anymore. But some TV shows, stayed until, they were way over the hill. And I'm not talking about King of the Hill.
Hey, you forgot about Tom Brady.
Show.
When a
Love
good
King of the Hill. I'm happy it's coming back.
When a good TV show ends badly, does it take away from your thought of the series as a whole? What do you guys think?
I'm one of those that enjoy the seasons of each season, each individual season, it being great, and the twists, the turns, and the journey, whatever the case. The ending of the show won't ruin the entire series from where it hasn't, because a lot of it, especially the ones I'm going to mention today, are some of my favorite series of all time. but the ending just was kind of a middle finger, like to me, or like that's what it felt. I'm not talking about a prostate exam, but they it can be bothersome for sure. But I don't think it ruins the entire series.
I'm not always happy with, a series ending. I don't think, sometimes I think, they leave, like I said, leave too much open or just kind of leave you with a cliffhanger. But it's not going to, like I said, it's not going to stop me from rewatching it.
I'll go back.
Won't stop.
I'll go back to my first answer. I think as long as a show doesn't overstay its welcome, it lives on. It's a good memory for me. If it's a bad final show, yeah, it stinks and that's all everybody talks about. But I could forgive it. Like I could go back and we're going to mention some episodes in some series. I won't talk about them yet. I could go back and watch reruns of the salad days of these series. But when it comes to like that final episode and it sucks, that's fine. If it's like 2 or 3 seasons where the show was holding on for whatever reason, maybe they got new writers, new showrunners, they replaced some key characters. That's unforgivable. And that's what ruins the show for me. And there's some prime examples I'm sure we'll discuss. We got news this week that 2 beloved TV series are coming to an end, Succession and The Goldberg. And it seems like...
man, I love The Goldbergs.
Goldbergs are a great 10-year run. It seems like the days of shows reaching double-digit seasons are ending. It was just announced, as we just mentioned, that the Goldbergs are concluding after 10 years. Why are TV series shorter, and is that a good thing?
It can be a good thing. I think it has a lot to do with, this instant gratification age that we're living in. Everybody gets shows instantly. They want to watch a show. I want to binge watch it all weekend. Hopefully like Netflix puts out a new season and you can see every episode, one right after the other. I think we're kind of into that. It's gone are the days where, at least in my personal opinion, where you're like, man, every Thursday you got to tune in to TBS at 6:00 so I can watch my favorite TV show. You know what I mean? So I think not that people lose interest, but I think it's hard to keep an audience attention over a 10-year span.
And we see a lot of shows end after fucking 2 episodes. We see a lot of shows end after 1 season. If it's just not working for you.
Carpoolers. Don't mention carpoolers, Joseph. I'm still pissed off they canceled carpoolers.
Carpoolers. It was so funny after 1 season and it got axed. But I mean, there's like what Bob said. It's different now. I think it's harder to keep an audience's attention for 10 plus seasons or something like that. And so you got to just get what you can, make the money that at least I feel these studios. And like you mentioned, Rand, don't overstay your welcome, because you can ruin a good show by continuing when like characters have left, actors and actresses have left the show and things like that. It's a problem.
You guys mentioned a good example, carpoolers. With me, it was High Fidelity, not the movie with John Cusack, but they did a spin-off TV series with Zoe Kravitz. And I thought that was good. I was completely invested in the first season, waiting to see what was going to happen in the second season, and they canceled it. And for me, that was one of the rare times where I said, I can't believe they canceled such a good show. And so many people feel that way.
Butter.
So
did you ever watch
no, I don't know what that is. What is that about?
Oh my god, dude, it's a group of guys that work together in the same like shopping plaza and they carpool, obviously,
and they kind of live in the same just borderline in the same neighborhood ish, so yeah, like they carpool.
It's really fucking funny. If you can find it, Rand, just watch the first couple episodes. I think you'll really laugh.
Might as well just watch the first season. I mean, that's all there was. It was hilarious, dude. Who was it? Jerry O'Connell was in it. Jerry O'Connell. I can't remember his name, but he played.
Who's the best friend in
TJ? Whatever.
From the Deadpool. Movie, from the first Deadpool movie, the best friend. I always forget his name.
There was that guy. He was in.
Handsome, don't worry about it. You'll watch.
Yeah, it was hilarious, dude. It really was.
I'm looking it up right now. I might edit this out while I'm searching for it. So carpoolers.
No, it's fun. It's fun when we do things like that.
Yeah. Jerry O'Connell, T.J. Miller, Scott Thompson from Kids in the Hall.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It looks like a good cast.
It was. It really was.
All right. And he's got good ratings, 7.6 on the IMDb, and they canceled it after 1 season.
After
13 episodes.
Yeah.
13 episodes and canceled after 1 season. Jesus.
That's a shame. I'll have to check
it
it
out.
out.
Fucking Bachelor shows there have been.
Those are like cheap to produce. So unfortunately we'll get Bachelor, Survivor, all these reality shows until the end of time because those are very cheap to produce.
So we run out of roses.
Of course. Okay, guys, last opening question. With streaming platforms and instant gratification, you guys both touched upon that. Has television now just become more of a long movie experience instead of an episode season long unraveling of storylines? What are your thoughts? And let me give you an example. Wednesday. I saw Wednesday in one day. It was funny because my brother-in-law had the kids. And my wife and I had all these things planned out. We ended up binge watching Wednesday. And I told her we didn't get to do anything that we normally wouldn't do without kids being around. She said, we never get to binge watch shows because our kids are always around. So we did exactly what we were supposed to do. And now, after having watched Wednesday in one day, I don't feel as attached to, say, watching an episodic TV show week after week where I'm slowly learning about characters. What are your thoughts on binge watching versus the week to week episodic watching?
I like it. I actually prefer it. I like that. I like that Netflix does that, at least for now. They give you a whole series, and it's usually just 10 episodes with Netflix, and they can be an hour long, and sometimes you're wasting, if you watched, how many episodes were there for Wednesday? I think it was 10.
It was 10 episodes, yeah.
And you watched it in one day, and they're like an hour long episodes.
Yeah,
Jeez,
you all didn't do nothing.
When you got up, off the couch, thumbs fall off your shirt.
You didn't do anything to that day. Like, so, and I find myself doing this with some, like, I have two TV shows, because not all streaming platforms do what Netflix does. Some of them wait a week to release a show.
Yeah.
I find myself, like, even with TV shows that are on TV, waiting to just get like 5 to 6 episodes recorded on the DVR, and then I'll watch them, because I don't want to wait. So I gotta watch the next episode. I gotta watch the next episode.
So Dawson's Creek is your answer, is what you're saying. It's funny, Bob. I'll let you answer, but if I could interject real quick, like with the streaming aspect of it, like there are a lot of shows that I sort of inherently catch on to because my wife is watching it. She's watched Ginny and Georgia.
Here's the excuse.
Right? Yeah. I'm trying to pawn it off on her, right? Ginny and Georgia, which I would have never watched, but she watches episode after episode when we're winding down after a long day, and I start catching it. She's watching the show called Shrinking with Jason Segel and Harrison Ford. I wasn't into the first 2 episodes, but I got to admit, I was watching it as she was watching along. I'm like, I got to go back and watch the episodes I missed because, she's telling me all about it. So it helps, that binging part helps you sort of catch on to what's going on instead of like waiting and say, well, I've missed 8 episodes, so why am I going to watch it? What do you think, Bob?
I agree and disagree a little bit with both. There's that longing. I don't know if I want to use the word longing, but the only bad thing about binge watching a show, especially when it first comes out, like you watch it and it's done and you're like, fuck. Now I gotta wait a whole damn year for it to come out again just for me to watch it in a 24-hour period. Fuck, that whole ending so quickly. The benefit of seeing it week after week is, you get to experience it for, let's say, an 8 to 10 week time frame. The binge watching thing does. I mean, it is great to be able to, like, hell, you want to watch another episode? You want to watch another? You want to stay up? It's 4 a.m. Fuck it, just stay up. Let's make coffee.
If I watch one more episode, that means I'll get 2 hours of sleep, and you start calculating all this shit in your head.
You start doing the calculation. So yeah, the only bad thing about it, I would say, is that feeling like, fuck, I just experienced 10 hours worth of this TV series, and now it's gone, and I have to wait a whole year until it comes back. So that's the only, I guess, negative about binge watching.
I can agree with that. No, I just want to say I can agree with that, because, like, especially if it's a good show, like Wednesday was good, and we have to wait for, at least I think it's good, and now we have to wait for the next one to film, which I don't even think that's going on right now. I like how at least with like Amazon Prime, The Boys is a weekly thing, and even then after that, you're like, even if the show is so good, and you're like how I feel like The Boys is, how I think Bob feels the same way. Randy, I'm not sure if you've watched The Boys.
I do. I love The Boys. Yeah, I got Amazon Prime because of that show. So.
Awesome. And it sucks. We're having to wait, but they didn't give us that show all at once. We had to wait, to watch the episode. So
how many episodes do they usually give? They release like the first 2, right? And then
the Boys, the Boys, they've been doing the first 2, and maybe they do this with all Prime, and then they do like another 4 or 5. They don't really do too many episodes.
I'm gonna place a lot of blame on my wife, but like HBO does this too, because we were watching the Sex Lives of College Girls. Great first season, bad second season, but they were releasing it like week after week, and we'd wait and say, well, let's watch like 4 episodes in the span of, one night or 2 nights. And HBO does that as well. They'll give you like episodes every week, but the secret is like, well, can I like delay the watching and say, okay, let them release all the episodes, the next month or so, and I can sit down and watch, 2 or 3 episodes a day, or if I want to binge watch the whole thing, just like I did with Dahmer. I binge watched that whole thing in one night.
I couldn't eat a ham sandwich after that.
But no, I mean, it's funny because nobody under a certain age is going to know the pain of like watching like the Dukes of Hazzard, and then it's a commercial and you gotta like use the restroom, and your brother's calling you and say they're about to jump the hill, hurry up, and you're like where, you're like rattling.
What he meant to say was The Young and the Restless. He meant to say The Young and the Restless, and hey, and then back on. Victor's about to.
If you miss Fonzie, like jumping the shark, you have to wait till the rerun to like recatch the episode. So it was all about I think that's why rerun. I think that's why we developed so much anxiety, because we had to be there or else we'd miss the whole thing. So interesting points all around, guys. Let's go ahead and kick it off to our honorable mentions. Joseph, we'll start with you. What are your honorable mentions?
I only got 2. Like I said, I don't have a problem with a lot of shows that you all are probably going to mention. So I'm just going to go with 2 real quick. That 70s show, I didn't like. As much as I love that show, that's one of those shows that like you talked about earlier, that although the final season was disappointing and the final episode, the series finale, was kind of like just they all at least they all came back, but at that point the season was so horrible. And the other one was Mom. I don't know if any of y'all ever watched Mom. I thought it was a good show with Anna Faris and what's her name? I can't remember her name. Allison Janney. Eventually, Anna Faris leaves the show, and they continue. I think it was 2 more seasons with just the main group of girls and Allison Janney being. But the way that one ended, and I'm pretty sure you two didn't see that. So, but the way that one ended, if you're our listeners, if you all watched Mom, I didn't like the way Mom ended. It was a big cliffhanger with Adam, the character of Adam, Bonnie's husband, played Bonnie as Allison Janney, and a few other things. So it was just kind of, it's one of those Chuck Lorre shows. So he kind of does that too.
Like 2.5 Men too, right? He did the whole piano drop.
That and then I think Roseanne was his show too.
Talk about a guy who holds a grudge, right?
I think so. Yeah. He's all over the map. Yeah.
So now that I look at it, that's just what he does. And so I was kind of upset about that. Those are my 2. I only had a few.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with 2 also. One of them, and I know they redid this show in Dexter. I'm gonna talk about Dexter here. They
surprise
show, surprise motherfucker, hot fries motherfucker.
All rise.
Yeah, I remember that. It's funny. The Dexter show, the way it originally ended, I just wasn't a big fan of it. You're thinking at the end, maybe he's going to finally get caught, every episode or every season. He's a serial killer who does DNA for the police. So you figure maybe at the very end he'll get caught and something like that fucked up will happen. But no, his sister dies. He drives off into a hurricane and he ends up becoming a lumberjack, like the Brawny Man. I don't know. It was a fucked up ending. I wasn't a big fan of it. I wasn't a really big fan of the way that ended. His kids go off to live with the girl he's dating at the time, and he like, okay, well, if you kill yourself off, why not go meet with them? It's a crappy ending. It doesn't take away from the show because each season was really good, but it was a bad series finale. And last, and Joseph, I definitely need your opinion on this. How I Met Your Mother.
Yes.
I love How I Met Your Mother. I am not a fan of the way it ended. Why not Cupcake Girl? If you're gonna, the whole fucking show is How I Met Your Mother. He never introduced the mom. When do you finally meet her? Like the last 2 episodes, and then they kill her off, and it's like you don't even know her. So like you're like, How I Met Your Mother. Who gives a shit, right? If it was gonna be somebody, it should have been Cupcake Girl. I want to say it should have been Cupcake Girl. Then she could have passed away. It's fucked up as it sounds. And then he could have gone to be with Robin or whatever, but. I didn't like that they brought the mom in and they killed her off so quickly. And then they're like, yeah, I know you're in love with Aunt Robin. So You just told us this whole story for the past 10 years about how you want to fuck our Aunt Robin. So I thought it was I thought I don't know, man. It felt weak. Like I know for a fact that they pre-wrote the ending because they thought they might get canceled after the first season, so that way they could put that in there. But after all the success, they could have changed the fucking ending. They could have changed the ending all they wanted to. I don't see why they didn't. Am I happy that he ended up with Robin at the end? Yeah, for sure. But I don't know, man. It's just something about it. I didn't like it. It felt real rushed, especially with the mom. How I Met Your Mother, and it wasn't even about the mom.
I never watched How I Met Your Mother, but I did say yes because it was on many lists that I read. A lot of my friends at the time were saying, you got to watch this show. It's your type of humor. I just could not get into that show. I watched maybe 4 episodes. I could not get into How I Met Your Mother. But you guys both liked it, right?
Yeah, it was good, man.
I didn't hate it, man. I mean, is it the best? No. Could they have done things a little bit differently? Sure, I had gotten the vibe that the mother was gonna die like during that scene. I can't remember if it was the season before. There was a bunch of, and then when you rewatch it, there's a lot of clues that tell you like what's gonna happen. He doesn't meet her until the last 2 episodes, which was, it ended up being like a 2-hour thing because I think they put 2 together, and you kind of just see bits and pieces of their relationship, but you got a feeling of who the mom was throughout the entire last season. So I didn't hate it, and it's cool. It's okay. So she died, and unfortunately
for cool, Joseph.
No, so in the end he ends up with Robin. So I didn't hate it. I didn't. It's not the best, but I don't hate it. Like I don't feel the way about it the way that you feel about it. But this is just this is another one of those shows that it doesn't, like, you'll rewatch the show, right, Bob? Like, I mean, it doesn't take away
especially
from.
If they show reruns on there. I saw a lot of these lists. People had The Office, but I thought their final show was good. I thought the show could have went on, like you had talked about, probably about 3 seasons. As soon as Steve Carell was leaving, if they ended off with his last episode, I think it would have been perfect.
I'm so glad they didn't keep the Will Ferrell character.
Well, I will say this, and I had Office on my honorable mention, so let's go ahead and kick off with that. I think the Will Ferrell character, I think the Steve Carell character, Michael Scott, was so good. If you would have started the TV series with the Will Ferrell character or the James Spader character, it would have been a good series. You cannot compare those 2 guys to Michael Scott. Michael Scott was one of the all-time best television show characters in history. I mean, you still have memes, jokes, people still quote him. And to follow up on that, even though that was during Will Ferrell's apex, I think he was still like in that hot streak of those 10 years where he was making comedies and he was everywhere. It still didn't compare to what Michael Scott brought into the table. The only disappointing thing about that is when the ceremony happened, Michael Scott was kind of like a Yoda character, or kind of like an Obi-Wan Kenobi character at the end. Sort of like, if I felt like it was just his hologram there, because he had like 1 or 2 lines. It wasn't really.
That's what she said. Oh yeah, what did he say? He was like, I feel like all my kids grew up and married each other. He said some shit like that.
It was great seeing him, but the finale, the show went 2 seasons too long, and that was my biggest complaint.
The finale was good though. The finale was, I give it that, but the seasons leading up to it, I didn't like very much at all.
I honestly thought if they had continued, like when I had first saw the Will Ferrell's character, and I said, don't think I'm going to continue watching this if they're going to roll with him. Like, cause I just couldn't stand it. Like it was too, and it's kind of how I feel about Will Ferrell now. We've already talked about this. I find him a little bit obnoxious, same character. That's basically what he was doing. The James Spader character, Robert California, had his moments, but he was kind of in and out of the show too. I thought, Kathy Bates, I would love Kathy Bates. She's a great actress and she does everything great. Yeah, no, like you all said, the finale, the way they ended it at least was great. They closure to characters. They went on to do great things. So at least they did that. Yeah, but that last season got a little.
I can't remember the 2. They brought in like a Jim and Dwight prototype. These 2 new actors. And
Clark Duke and I don't know the other
guy. The guy that's in the Hot Tub Time Machine, and
he's in
the
that
young dude he was in White Lotus.
White Lotus. He was great in White Lotus, by the way.
Yeah, the first season. He plays a perfect asshole, right?
Yeah, he was. They made jokes about the trope and everything, so they were very self-aware. But still, bringing in those 2 characters was kind of like, why? I mean, I don't know. I mean, Why? So I'll go through my list because I have a lot more, but I'm going to try to get through them as quick as I can. The Sopranos season finale. Joseph, you're not a big Sopranos fan, right?
It went black. What happened when the screen went black, Randall?
Well, I got a story about that. I'm going to try to get to it really quick. And that's why I mentioned the don't stop believing joke at the beginning. So I was at my buddy Mario's house with my friend Steve, a buddy of mine, Steve, who just visited me a couple days ago. And we were watching it at my buddy Mario's house, and it went black. And we were
Hold on. I will rain down upon you, Steve.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, good friend.
Shout out, Steve. Shout out, Steve.
And so the TV went blank, and we ran to another room to turn on the TV. And we're like, "Did you pay your fucking cable? And what the fuck's going on?" And I mean, I know it's a sort of old joke by now because everybody says that they thought the TV went out on them, but we had that same experience. And I know David Chase, the creator, was like, "Hey, you know what? It's my show. I could do whatever I want with it." But I think that ending was very unsatisfactory. It was just. It wasn't a good ending, is what I'm trying to say, Joseph.
I've seen episodes after. I think I've mentioned it before. After I can only take so much of that Tony Soprano voice. Like after a while, like everybody else, like Chris, you gotta. I can't do it. Like after a while, I gotta stop. Like so, But coincidentally, I knew that episode was airing, and so I watched it because I didn't have anything else to do. And not knowing anything about the show, watching that scene, I thought something fucking happened. Like, I was like, holy shit, a lot of people are going to be mad. Everybody, HBO channel fucked up. Like, I don't know. Like I didn't know what was going on. So I was just like, when it happened, I was like, wow. I was like, wow. Does everybody know that the cable went out? And then the credits ended up coming on, and I'm like, oh man, people are going to be mad. Like, I don't know anything about the show, but I know that's pretty upsetting.
It was upsetting.
I would be pretty upset.
Do you think that they did it that way because it was like a symbolism for Tony getting shot?
That's a theory.
That was a theory that he got shot in the back of the head.
Yeah. After hearing about that,
the lights went out. It went blank because his show was over.
But they also said another theory is that he looks up when the door opens, and that's his life. That he's always paranoid, and that's why he's in. He's seeing a psychiatrist, and he's having all these issues, panic attacks, and anxiety because that's his life. It's just uncertainty, anxiety, and so every time somebody opens the door, he freaks out, and that's what you're supposed to take from it. Like he's going to have this ongoing anxiety and these mental issues. So
doesn't matter what happens, who's alive, who's dead. He's always going to be looking over his shoulder.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, those are the two popular takes. So I think a lot of people probably side with you more so, Bob, and that lights went out that night. So we'll see what happens in
Georgia.
Dinosaurs, which was a very popular program in the early 90s, they had a very disappointing ending. Essentially, the Ice Age comes in, and Sinclair, the father, is telling his kids that, hey, we've lived here for 150 million years. We're going to live. Okay. And then at the end, they show a newscaster saying that it's going to be snowing and everybody has to stay home. And it's just a bleak ending to these puppets. And that they had to have eaten the baby to survive. So it was just a bleak, morbid ending,
They ate the baby. Oh.
I mean, what a sad ending. Okay, Saint Elsewhere, which was it was a little bit before my time too. This show ran from 82 to 86. It was a long-running medical drama. And the ending shows that the hospital, the characters in the story were all the imagination of a boy on the spectrum holding a snow globe in the hospital. So he thought of all the storylines and he thought of all the characters. And so before before Grey's Anatomy, every decade had a hospital drama. Of course, ER and Grey's Anatomy had good looking people who were always fucking each other in the hospital. But Saint Elsewhere was
sexy.
Saint Elsewhere was grittier. It had Ed Begley Jr., Howie Mandel, Denzel Washington,
Howie Mandel, when he had hair.
Good show, man. Roseanne. Go ahead, Bob.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And I'll go through these quickly. Roseanne, Dan dies in the eighth season.
Yeah, that was weird. That was a weird one. I'm glad you mentioned that one.
Yeah. He's found out that he's alive, and Roseanne was was writing a fantasy novel. Very stupid. None of this happened. Mad Men. Don Draper is trying to find himself by meditating, and all of a sudden comes up with the "I like to buy the world a Coca-Cola" ad, which was like a huge ad in the 70s. And Don Draper.
He's the man. He is the man, sir.
Great. He's fantastic. Quantum Leap. Sam Beckett never leaps home. So we'll just leave it at that.
Why wouldn't he go home? That's what something that Bob. Why wouldn't he? Yeah, you can finally go home. He's like, fuck it. I like being in other men's bodies and other people's characters and all this shit. Why wouldn't he go home? Leap home, bro. Leap home, Sam.
Full House, they didn't know the series was ending, but the last episode was Michelle getting amnesia because I think a horse kicked her on the head or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
She fell off a horse.
Yeah.
Oh shit!
And so they were trying to convince her of all these like flashback memories. It was just bad, but they didn't know the show was ending, so we're gonna give them a pass. Fresh Prince, not a terrible season ending episode, but Will Smith was already on his way to superstardom. Bad Boys had come out. Independence Day was a few months away. I felt that this show went about a season or two too long. The last scene with Will standing in an empty living room is now a meme, but I felt like he was too big of a star.
How come no one wants him, man? Jesus.
And those are our honorable mentions. And now we're talking about who we picked or what we picked for the worst TV series finale of all time. I'm going to kick it off, and I'm going with Seinfeld. All right. So what makes this the worst finale is that, in my opinion, it's the all-time best show on TV. Every year it gets mentioned. It gets more and more dated. But during its run, there was no show better. There was no show funnier than Seinfeld. Despite being very 90s, the humor still holds up. Some of my all-time favorite Seinfeld episodes: The Contest, The Parking Lot, The Chinese Restaurant, The Marine Biologist, The Junior Mint, Bubble Boy, Fusilli Jerry, The Jacket. And I could go on and on. I could list so many Seinfeld episodes that I loved.
Shrinkage, Jerry.
Shrinkage. I was in the pool. All right. But something happened after season 7. Show co-creator and showrunner Larry David left the show, leaving an unfillable void. Easy for me to say. According to Screen Rant, largely motivated by the pressures of his role in the show's future. He was, the show suffered in quality after Larry David left. Seasons 8 through 9, there were a handful of classic episodes. I mean, those last 2 seasons without Larry David, they had the Bizarro Jerry, the Elaine Dancing episode, the Merv Griffin episode, the Comeback, the Strike. There were some good episodes, but it lost its luster. By the time the show was in its LeBron James Lakers version of its career, I'm talking about the last 2 seasons of LeBron on the Lakers and the last 2 seasons of Seinfeld, you saw some sparks, but it was past its prime. Larry David leaving was such a gut punch. Of course, Curb Your Enthusiasm schedule is much less stressful. 10 episodes. He comes out like every 2 years at this point. With Seinfeld, he was writing and overseeing 23 episodes a year. Seinfeld's season 2 to 7 run, I would put those 5 years of television against any show. 4 A+ written characters, funny in their own right, Jerry playing himself and everyone else playing an overtop version of all the friends that we have in our lives, right? Story structures were different on this show. It was a show about nothing. You see so many shows borrowing from this element, these red herring jokes and twists. Seinfeld made us cheer the anti-hero. People like Dexter, Tony Soprano, Walter White get so much credit for being anti-heroes, but the 4 lead characters on Seinfeld were so involved, so repugnant, without a shred of self-awareness. They were the original anti-heroes we cheered for. My last few points. I love this show, and the last episode was just a squash recap of every terrible thing the cast did, flanked by way too many cameos, all compacted in an hour. For those who haven't seen the last show, not many missed it because it was watched by 76 million viewers. Jerry and George get their TV series picked up. The gang all decide to go to Paris for one last hurrah. They witness an overweight man get carjacked. They make fat jokes while Kramer records them. Of course, that doesn't age well. And the gang gets arrested on a duty to rescue violation. They go on trial. Character witness from their past come out. They get sentenced to a year in prison. And Jerry Seinfeld, despite saying he was happy with the episode in a 2014 Reddit AMA, Seinfeld seemed to walk those comments back in 2017, where he said in an interview with the New Yorker Festival, "I sometimes think we really shouldn't have done this episode," he said. "There was a lot of pressure on us at the time to do one big last show, but big is always bad in comedy." Jason Alexander said it was a good episode, not a great episode. And Julia Louis-Dreyfus made an infamous joke on David Letterman's final episode saying, "Thanks for letting me take part in another hugely disappointing series finale." So when all 3 of your stars go on record, they went on record to say it was a huge disappointment. That says everything, not just something. This was a huge disappointment for a sitcom that trailblazed so many others like it. I think they would have done just another day in the life of episode. If they would have done one of those, I think we would have been okay. Does this change what Seinfeld means to me? Absolutely not. But man, what a bust. What do you guys think?
You're not wrong. You're definitely not wrong in this selection. It's definitely up there. It would have been on my honorable mentions. Although I try not to put your all selections in honorable mentions or make any kind of reference to them. I was wondering how many episodes I've I've watched a lot of Seinfeld episodes. I think I loved it. It's a great show. It's funny. The characters are incredible. I can't say I've watched it all. I can't say I've watched every episode, but then maybe I have. I'd have to sit down and try that. Maybe I'll do that. But the only thing I question on this, and whether or not we should be so mad, even though the actors have said, oh yeah, it's bad, it's bad. What's the show about? What's the joke about the show? What's the joke about the fake show? It's a show about nothing. Yes. So how do you end a show about nothing? What do you expect from them? Like, how are they supposed to like make everybody happy? Like, so, and this got me thinking, like, am I wrong for being upset? It's a great pick, Randy. It really is. But am I wrong for being upset when I think about what are we supposed to see them do? What are we supposed to see them have a happy ending? Is Elaine supposed to get married to Jerry? Were they supposed to go live Hollywood life, with the show? I think, in a weird way, the recap of everything that has happened in the series was kind of the only thing that they could do. Like I said, I got to ask myself, what do I expect? What am I expecting from these characters? What's their happy ending? So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we're all wrong in being so upset at it. But it's a very upsetting. It's a great pick. I just wonder whether or not we're allowed to agree. Like, does that make sense? Did I make you think anything?
That was a
say something, damn it, Randy. You just did.
That was a response about nothing. No,
well, Randy was gonna say that.
No, because I agree with the pick. I'm just like, I just had to think about it. Like, what am I expecting?
I agree. I agree with you to a good amount of extent there, Joseph. I would just say it's a really bad Seinfeld episode. You know what I mean? It is kind of it's a bad episode, but I mean, they've had bad episodes. They've had some really good, some really great, funny, extremely funny episodes. We could probably go on a whole damn rant, or we could do a podcast just about that TV series, but they've had some really great episodes and funny episodes. But really, like Joseph said, it's a show about nothing, so it doesn't kind of follow a certain timeline. So how do you end a show like that? If you miss 5 episodes of season 5, if you watch the 6th one, you're not going to miss out on anything. It's each episode is its own little mini episode. So I feel like, how do you end an episode? Or I'm sorry, how do you end a series like that? I think they could have done a better job. I think bringing in all the past characters and all that. I think if they had just made it a final episode about nothing, just a day-to-day, a normal episode, I think people would have appreciated being like, you know what, that's what I fell in love with. That's what I love about this show. And I'm glad that it ended off on kind of like kind of a shrug your shoulders, like it's just a normal, funny show. You know what I mean? There's nothing spectacular or over the top. I think they try to go over the top with it, in comedy. That's very hard to do, especially with a TV show like that. So I don't know, man. I agree with the pick, Rand, but I also agree with Joseph. Like, how the hell else were they supposed to end it off? Like, it's one of those. I don't know, it's one of those shows.
But are we more mad that they ended up in jail, or was it the past characters coming in and just doing just a recap process? Because as we said all this, and I listened to Bob, and kind of going off of what Bob says, maybe they could have just done a regular episode. You know what? Kind of hint that Elaine and Jerry maybe get together, that they're going to go off and have this show and do the show, and everything's going to work out great. Hell, maybe that he even moves from New York, something like that. And I guess that could have been better than them ending up in jail. Is that what we're mad at? That they ended up in jail?
I think they try to do too much, right?
Well, yeah. Here's my bone of contention. I have 2 questions. First of all, who doesn't want to wear the ribbon? And second, I want to ask, a show about nothing. Their trademark was about just the common everyday foibles and funny things that happen. Why is this show about nothing doing a show about everything at the end? I think they were trying to be ironic. I think they were trying to have this, paradox view of like, everybody's expecting this. Let's do a swerve and try to outsmart our audience and do every plot line and include it in a 1-hour special. And it just didn't work. They try to jam pack this thing and make a plot out of a show that essentially had no plot.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you nailed it right in the head. Like, everybody's expecting this, so let's give them this clever turn that nobody's going to see come.
Yeah.
Why fuck up your show? Like, if the writing's been so consistent and so good, I think we mentioned this with the honorable mentions or with our questions at the beginning of the show. Like, why would you try to go in, like, take a crazy left turn and give the audience something completely different and out of the blue, and fuck everybody's, like, it never comes out as good as the writers hope it is. It always comes off as in bad taste. I think personally.
Also, I hate anyone that ever had a pony when they were growing up. I'll just put it
I had a pony.
I killed mine, yeah. Okay. All right, up next, we got Joseph. What do you got for us, Joseph?
My selection is Supernatural, the Supernatural series. Great show, in my opinion. 15 seasons, almost unheard of. Like, going back to what Randy said earlier, 15 seasons. We don't hear about that anymore. It had its issues with showrunners, but I was never unhappy with, the directions that each season, went. I was still fine with it. Anyway, the episode is called Carry On, a callback to the series' unofficial anthem, Carry On My Wayward Son by Kansas. The whole final season is like a build up to this showdown between Chuck, aka God, and the boys, the Winchesters. So the episode prior to the series finale, there's that showdown. There's the battle between Chuck and the boys, and everything happens, and they're victorious, and that's cool. We get to the season finale, the series finale, the next series finale, the next episode. It starts off so very like, okay, well, what are they going to do? It starts off with the boys just, living a regular, normal life now, supposedly. We're not sure what's supposed to happen now that everything, quote unquote, super evil or whatever has been, taken care of. It's kind of cookie cutter in the beginning. The boys living, like I said, they're living everyday life. They end up going to a pie eating contest because Dean loves pie and whatnot. And somehow the subplot to this, new life that they're living where everything's happy go lucky, a group of vampires, the first sign that, there's still things in the night that they need to take care of, kill a family and abduct. So the boys doing what they do, they hear about it. They try to go find out what happened, take care of the situation, learn that the kids are missing. So they go hunt the vampires. And in the middle of the battle, Dean gets shoved while being shoved, gets impaled by a spike of some sort. It ends up being, his doom. He's there. Sam takes care of everything, but Dean's kind of there, and he's clearly like not doing in good shape. And he's accepted what's going to happen, and he has a touching moment with his brother. They exchange, pleasantries and fond memories. And Dean tells his brother Sam, like, you got to keep going. It's a very touching moment. Very sad for anybody who invested time in the show. They cut to a montage, and Sam's doing what he does, for the character. If you know anything about the show, he gives Dean his Hunter's funeral, and then a little bit of a montage and music of him kind of carrying on afterwards, and eventually going back to helping people, doing what they did throughout the entire show. They cut to a scene of Dean being in heaven, and heaven is this basically Earth now. It's just an open area
in the woods.
Yeah, it's cabin in the woods, open area. That's the way that's the way it is now. Surprise appearance by a fan favorite, the character of Bobby, who talks to Dean a little bit about what's going on in heaven, and basically telling him, hey, this is your life now, whatnot. Time's different. So they cut to a montage of Sam living his life and getting older, and apparently meeting a woman and having a child, and dying himself. And at the time he dies, he meets with his brother in heaven, and that's basically the end. That's the end of the episode. My problems with this is I felt that this whole series finale episode was very unnecessary. If I know you guys probably you don't know what happened in the previous episode, but if they had just taken things and it just felt like they were trying to give a send-off to these characters that could have happened in the prior episode, and it was this long, because I think the episodes used to be an hour, if I remember correctly. An hour send-off for something that could have happened in the episode prior to that. Also, Dean dying by getting shoved into a spike, I thought that was such a fucking horrible thing. Like if you're a fan of the show, you knew that you probably knew that it was going to end with somehow Dean dying. And considering all the things that the character of Dean has been through in the show, for him to get taken out by a spike, unbelievable.
Spike?
He could have died in the battle in the previous episode, and that would have been fine if that was the way that they were going to go. It would have been more. I don't know, every time I say it, I always think the more better, and I don't want to say more better.
More better.
We've ruined you.
It would have been a better send off for him. He died fighting and saving, his brother or something, or what they did for humanity in general. I also didn't like that, for it being the last episode, you see the boys, you see, like I mentioned earlier, a quick cameo by the character Bobby, who was, like I said, a fan favorite, but there was a lot of other fan favorites. The character of Castiel, the character of Jack, those guys were just as important to the story. At that point, they had been staples for a while now, and you don't see anything. They don't appear in the episode. If it's so great, like, why didn't they make their appearance? Why didn't you have them come? Like, they're just kind of mentioned, and you're just kind of left to the imagine. And I just thought, one, like I said, my main problem was with it is it felt patchwork, and Dean going out by a spike. Just, I couldn't believe that. But it's one of my favorite shows, man. It really is. And after rewatching the finale, I'm gonna fucking go start from the beginning and watch it again. So I'm gonna start, like, I don't know, probably this week, maybe an episode or two a day, and I'm gonna rewatch this whole fucking series.
Guys, your Wolverine boots. Yeah, I agree with you 100% about the Dean dying. I was a big fan of the show. I did watch just about every season, and seeing the finale, especially, of all the demons and fighting God essentially, and Satan and all. He fucking dies by a spike. Come on, man. What the fuck?
Yeah.
How did they let him go out like that? And considering as big a show as it is, and all, like, the CGI and all the monsters they had, they could have made Sam look a little bit older in those scenes where he was supposed to be an old man dying.
Yeah.
Like, they put the fake white spray that you use during Halloween.
I mean, they could have got another actor
Jesus
to be in too.
Christ, yeah. And a couple of wrinkles to his face. Jesus Christ. He looked like Sam, all muscular and shit, at like a 7-year-old man with just a little bit of white in his hair. I thought they fucked up there, or they did a bad job there. But I mean, having said that, I'm going to ask you the same question that you asked Ren. How did you expect it to end? I think we all knew, being fans of Supernatural, that they were going to die off. I think that's the only way they could have, having survived so many series. And so at the very end, after everything that happened, especially with Chuck, I think the only way it could have ended was them dying off. Should they have died the way they died? Maybe not. I don't think so. I think that's a crappy way for them to die. If they had died in battle but still won the war, you know what I mean? If that makes sense, that phrase. I think that would have been great. And then, meeting together in heaven, hey man, we did it. We saved the world, at what cost, our lives. But, we always knew that was on the table. I think if they had done that, I think it would have been great. So, I mean, yeah, I agree with those faults on the show. Is it the worst ending? No, because I kind of figured that's the way it was going to happen. But I think they could have gone about it a different way.
I expected them to both go, to be honest with you. I expected them to both die. I expected it to end like that. They both, like you said, fought, gave their lives for, if you know anything about the show, to save the world from God. And yeah, I expected them to go. If at the least, like I said, if you were a fan of the show, you always expected or always thought, Dean's going to end up biting it. It just didn't expect it to be that way. And it would have been better if they had gone.
Green got him from the rusty nail.
If it would have been better if they had just both died in the battle.
So I have a very important question. What channel was this show on? Was it Sci-Fi?
The CW.
It was on the CW.
Okay,
well,
all right.
It was still, CW, whatever the CW was before CW.
It was WGN before, and then it became CW.
I've seen I've seen a total of one episode of this show. It was because of this podcast. I've never watched. I know a few people who are fans of this show and they swear by it, and I want to give it an opportunity. And maybe this is going to get the ball rolling.
It's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix. I might have to check it out. So I watched the last show for this podcast, and they were playing a very sullen cover of "Carry On My Wayward Son." I wasn't happy with the cover. I get that it had to be slowed down for context and feel. I wasn't impressed with the arrangement. It didn't really touch my heart. I will say this: according to an interview with Entertainment Weekly, the original plans for the series finale, for the series' final moments, would have had Dean going to heaven and finding a party being held in a version of the Roadhouse bar. I guess you guys know what that is. In attendance would have been various characters from throughout the series, along with Kansas themselves performing "Carry On My Wayward Son."
How awesome would that have fucking been?
But the pandemic forced the studio to cancel this idea, and the ending was rewritten. So maybe that was the ending they could have gone with, Joseph. That would have been much more satisfying than what they had going on.
Thanks a lot, COVID.
So you know what? If I'm just real quick, so you can finish. Go to your point. Had we seen more characters, you just knowing more characters, or we're in a better place or a better situation, that probably would have been better. There's another thing to add. There's a lot of character. I didn't mention it because I was just trying not to say everything that I had wrote down. But there was some plot holes and there was some characters that disappeared that you like. They were so fucking like, wow, that character is going to be something. And then you never heard from them. And I was like, so that was upsetting too.
You know, so Joseph, that might have been to your point why this ending seemed kind of rushed and put together because of the pandemic and the changes they had to make. But imagine if Kansas was performing "Carry On My Wayward Son." That would have been like goosebump inducing. I would have gone for it. I was impressed with the hospice setting with Dean Jr. and who's the guy with Sam, right? Sam.
That's how I want to go.
Sam, yeah. I mean, it was like a cozy cottage, but like a church cathedral. It looked really cool. That's the way I want to die. Yeah. Okay. At the end, when the two brothers are standing at the bridge, it was very much like a Magnum PI MacGyver sort of cutaway where you saw everything. So it wasn't really like, they embraced. It was nice, but it wasn't really, it felt like there could have been more to it. And that's just me not knowing the show. I mean, they thanked us at the end for 15 years. It was a sweet goodbye. I enjoyed that. The research that I read about this show and the little that I know about it, it completely revolves around its fans. So naturally, I went to the YouTube comments. There was
supernaturally.
There you go. There was a resounding satisfaction. The brothers were there together, the car, the street, the same clothes they wore in the first episode. I mean, it checked all the boxes from the first show, from the callbacks. I will say that this was my first Supernatural episode. I did enjoy it. If the finale is considered bad, then the rest of the show must have been pretty damn good. And then lastly, I could imagine if I had spent 15 years watching the show, I would have gotten emotional because I felt myself getting a little choked up at the end. And that's because I didn't know who these two people were. You could feel that the bond between these two actors, like you could feel that they loved each other like brothers. I would give this series a shot based on this ending. 15 seasons, okay, that's a lot. I might just read the Wikipedia for the first 5 seasons and maybe catch a few. But the bond between these two actors was so impressive. But this ending kind of seemed a little Marvel movie type for me. But I mean, I was okay with the ending.
They're actually really great friends, and they both live in Texas. They're both Texas boys. They both live in Austin, I believe. And the Dean character is the one that owns the family business brewery that we
always go to. Yeah. Love that place.
Excellent. But you mentioning this show, Joseph, and you talking about it too as well, Bob. I might start watching the show.
I think, yeah.
You have to be really into like the occult and like demons and God and vampires, because they're like, they hunt the supernatural, but then they also deal with like, the demon aspect of it and heaven and hell and good versus evil, that kind of shit. So if you're into that, dude, yeah, for sure.
Is there a sassy grandmother on the episodes? No, I'm just playing.
No, it's a sassy uncle. He's gonna come out in the end. Bobby.
Right. I think, like if you watch it and you actually give it a try and you dig it and you watch the whole thing, I think you will feel just as much as I feel about how Bob feels too. The character of Dean went out and just how it was kind of like,
yeah, he's the badass of the show and he got taken up by a fucking nail. It's kind of disappointing.
Bob, you're up next. What do you got?
All right, man. So speaking of, I know you think of Seinfeld as one of the greatest shows of all time, and I can agree with you at the top 5 for sure of all time. Well, in most recent memory, hasn't been a show that's taken over the world quite like Game of Thrones. Now, this show, when it came out in HBO, it was one of my favorites. I mean, death and fighting and crazy shit and crazy ending and dragons and all sorts of fucked up things and twists and turns. And I mean, just one of those shows that capture your attention. Joseph, I know you haven't seen it, and I'm not going to fault you for that because I haven't seen a lot of your shows either. But it's one of those fucking shows, man, that you start watching and then you're like, okay, you got to watch another episode. Oh, fuck, I got to keep watching. How does it end? And the fucking Red Wedding and what the fuck? And the Battle of the Bastards. Holy shit. It's just so many great episodes and battle scenes and twists and deaths. And it was just fantastic. And for it to lead me to the cliff and then just softly push me off it at the end, I was very disappointed in the way this fucking show ended, man. the queen. Okay, spoilers alert, Joseph. I know you haven't seen it. You know, making the queen. I mean, she becomes the queen, and she's kind of this mad queen at the end. You know, lighting fire to the city, and you know everything would have come full circle because her grandfather, I believe, or her father, whoever, great grandfather was the Mad King, and you know she finally, you know, no woman has ever sat on the Game of Thrones, the throne, you know, over the Seven Kingdoms, and you know she finally did it, and she was kind of going a little crazy. So you know, it coming full circle would have been awesome, but instead, no, they kill her off. Not only that, they kill her off with Jon Snow, who I get it, he does it because he has to save his family, even though it's the woman he loves. I get that. Killing her off was like, oh, okay. But then, you know, they hold him like accountable, and now he can't even, oh, Jon Snow, I know you fucking did all these great battles, and I know you saved the Seven Kingdoms, but guess what? We're going to send you back to the fucking wall. Like he's just he's a Snow, like he's a bastard, and it's bullshit that he fucking did so much to help save it and to conquer and all that shit. And for what? For him to get sent back to the wall. I thought that was fucking crazy. Bran, who's the kid that gets pushed out the window at the beginning, Joseph, he becomes because he's in a wheelchair for the rest of the seasons. He becomes like this future seer, and he's like, he calls himself, he's like the third eye Raven, and he can see the future. And I'm no longer Bran, and I can see the future, and blah blah blah, that kind of shit, which is fine, which is cool. And then at the end, he's like, "Oh, they're like, we need a king. Oh, I'll be king. I can be the Brand King." Like, motherfucker, you just said you were no longer a man and you were a future seer and all this shit. No longer. Now you're like, well, fuck that. I'll wear the crown. Get some, you know, king ass, whatever the fuck. I thought that was another bullshit thing that they threw in there. Joseph, I know for sure that you know this. Winter is coming. You know what that means, Joseph? You've heard that phrase before. Winter is coming. Well, yes. Winter fucking came and went, and we waited and fucking waited and fucking waited and we fucking waited. And the very last season, winter came, and it came very quickly, like prom night, and it ended within like an episode and a half, let's call it. 2 episodes max. And we were very, very, very fucking disappointed. I thought they would have dragged that on through the whole last season and ended up in, you know, everybody dying and all this crazy shit. They kind of like didn't. There was a lot of storylines, like you say, like with Arya becoming, you know, in her little journey, she does all this training to like be able to change her face, to be somebody else, to sound like somebody else, to do this. And then it doesn't even pay off at the end. She doesn't even use that quality in like any of the final episodes, which I find is fucking stupid. I don't know, man. It's one of those that was a big letdown, a huge letdown. So we're left, the Game of Thrones, we're waiting to see who's going to get it. It's the dude in the wheelchair, Bran, who didn't even want to be a Stark anymore, wanted to be a future seer that lived in a tree and all that weird shit, you know, and everybody else kind of goes their own way. I didn't like the ending. I was very disappointed on it. And having so many great fucking episodes. So, Joseph, if you haven't seen the Battle of the Bastards, watch that episode. If you have to watch one Game of Thrones episode, watch the episode. That fucking fight scene and those battle scenes were crazy good. The Red Wedding, another one that was a fucking shocker and crazy ending. Having so many great episodes and so many great season finales to end off that way, I was just extremely disappointed and pissed off about it. And there's just so many other ways it could have gone. And I was just really disappointed about it. Do y'all have what's your opinion on it? I don't know if any of y'all have ever watched the show, but what's your opinion on it?
I watched you mentioned some of my favorite episodes. Also the Viper versus the Mountain, was it? That was another great episode. Dude. Another great episode. So you're saying that dinosaurs had a more imposing winter than Game of Thrones did. Texas 2 years ago had a more imposing winter. Anyway,
well, that's for sure.
Here's my history with Game of Thrones. I got in on it late. My wife and I started watching it when it was the second to the last season, before it was in full swing. I enjoyed it, but sometimes when the screen was too dark, man, I fell asleep. If nobody was like fighting or having sex, I was like, okay, let me just rest my eyes for a little bit. Anyway, so let me just say this. Every time I see a picture of George R.R. Martin, he's surrounded by beautiful women. I mean, kids, forget med school, forget law school, man, forget college. Go write about elves, dragons, and warlocks. I mean, if you want to, you know. So it's funny because you had mentioned about dragons, Bob, and that reminds me of the only funny scene in Starsky and Hutch, the movie, where Will Ferrell's a prisoner and he's like, "Do you like dragons?"
It's kind of weird. 2 dragons.
Look at my belly. It's like a bowl of oatmeal. So I got
a little more brown sugar on mine.
Yeah, brown sugar. There you go. So
very convincing.
So best kill scenes of any show. I will say that. Okay, this show still sticks with me, and when I'm having a bad day, I'll YouTube some of the death scenes. It just makes me feel better for whatever reason. I just love watching the death scenes. They're pretty cool to watch. It's a feel-good show is what I'm trying to say. Like many epic shows, this was a total cleanup finale. I think they were trying to answer too many questions in such a short amount of time. I mean, but credit Peter Dinklage. That guy was the point guard of this basketball team of a show. Without him, the show is an entirely different and duller series. He was a utility player. Why did they cut away from his sex scenes, though? I mean, cut away. Why would? That's the most disappointing part of the show. How is he going to handle these discrepancies? Oh, but they have no problem showing Jason Momoa or Kit Harington getting down. I think they could have been more fair, and they could have practiced more diversity when it came to that. Anyway, I think to defend.
So you're saying is you wanted to see more of Peter Dinklage?
I wanted to see how he handles the situations.
He was surrounded by naked women, all over him, and he's like, you know what? He needed more of his Dinklage. I needed to see more of his Dinklage, and I would have been happier.
God damn it, I gotta see it.
Is he bigger than me? I gotta know.
Okay, I think to defend, talking about the finale here, not Peter Dinklage. All right, I think to defend the finale, no matter what they could have done or what they would have done, we would have been too ardently taxed after every episode. We've developed an emotional callus that we would have been disappointed no matter what would have happened. I mean, Daenerys being stabbed. I mean, was that even a shocker at that point? You took away all the pathos from her by having her ride around on a dragon, burning down everything. We were taxed and confused. So for me, it was a lose-lose situation. I think we were all satisfied with Sansa and Arya's conclusion. I think that was okay. Just one request. Teen moms, quit naming your daughters Khaleesi. She was a mad queen who burned down the capital, innocent children, women and horses and wives. Stop naming your kids Khaleesi. Her death was odd, slow, and boring. Yes, and the dragon nudges her and burns down the Iron Throne because all of a sudden, the fucking dragon understands politics, so it burns down the throne. All right, yeah, we get it. I don't think they could have won no matter what. Stupid ending, yes. Bad ending. You couldn't get a good one no matter what is what I'm saying. What do you think, Joseph?
I think thank you for going and giving such great a rebuttal there because it's going to make up for me not having much to say. As Bob said, I have not seen this show. And it's nothing against, choice. I just, for some reason, have like
you prefer wizards to dragons, Joseph. That's okay. Just say it like that.
This, I don't know. I've never been into, it's never been something I'm interested in seeing movies like this or TV shows like this, I don't want to call them knights because I don't think there was knights in it. Like, what were they? Warriors?
Everything was dark.
Yeah, they're
okay,
knights.
So Dark Ages.
Oh,
type
knights. K-N-I. Okay.
But knowing Bob has seen this show and because he'll talk to you. He's always talked to me about the show. He's always told me what he liked about it. He's always told me what pissed him off.
I know what he likes about it.
Dinklage.
The way he describes it and the way other people have described it, it sounds like I would be, and I looked up why people found it very underwhelming, very rushed, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bob, that battle that's finally happened, the one that was the dark battle that wasn't like everybody was freaking out, that was in the last season too.
Yeah, dude, the whole you said the right word, rush, Joseph. The entire last season was fucking rushed, and because they rushed everything and rushed winners coming, rushed everything, the ending felt very rushed and very pushed. And this is the way we could wrap it all up into a nice little fucking ribbon, and it sucked because they rushed. If they had done a better job with the season as a whole, I think it would have been killed. Dude, it was a shorter season, but each episode was like, some of them were like close to 2 hours, dude.
But here's the show's calling card was a shock value. Like anytime you got attached to a character, that character died. And now you're watching this last show and nothing's really shocking about it. It's like, okay, it just seems like an average run of the mill ending.
Yeah, and
I agree.
What do they call him? The Night King?
The Night King.
Is that what his name was?
No, was it the who are you talking about?
The guy with the blue eyes, bald. He does the
you want to come home?
Like, you want to come home?
What do you want? What do you want?
What do you want to do? I thought this is America.
Yeah.
He does. He's that, that guy. He does that. Look, Bob's talked to, he would talk to me about that guy, and then he showed me that clip where they show him like
Night King,
the Night King when he's like with the Bring It On look, and you think like, holy shit, like Bob, that Bob got really excited because this guy was gonna bring the pain, bring death and whatnot, and then I remember when the episode happened with the battle, and he just so disappointed and so upset at it. Yeah. And so just hearing those things, I can only imagine, you were let down because of something that was building, and then that battle happened, you were let down. And I can only imagine, because you, like, the way you invested your time in this show, the way I kind of talked about, it's two different shows, obviously, but the way I describe, my Supernatural pick, you were so invested in this show, and just to have it like end badly, and I can understand it. Like it sounds like you're incredibly upset about this, and I know, as popular as the show is, I know it's a huge show, so I know this is a great pick for this topic. So I can't argue too much. I can't argue against it. I can't argue for it because I don't know the show, but I understand, and I know your anger firsthand, and describe to me about how upset you were with this shit. So, and it's I know, like I said, it's a big time show, so I'm sure you're not the only one. Randy feels the same way too.
19.3 million people viewed in on the finale live. 19.3 million. I guarantee you, 19.2 million were fucking pissed off after that. And
I just want to say to our listeners, if you are one of those fans that enjoyed it, please tell us why. We would love to hear it. We're not going to.
I will say this. I think another thing is that we compare, because the lead up episodes were very good. There were a lot of good lead up episodes to it, and so it was just this apex, and then it just went downhill. The nadir was the last episode, and I think that's why a lot of people have such a problem with it, because those lead up episodes were very good. Okay, guys, last words on bad TV show finales.
We talked about it earlier. TV shows aren't gonna go 15 seasons anymore. How many seasons was Game of Thrones? Like 8 to 10, something like that.
6 or 7, wasn't it?
But okay, you can. But what counts, a smaller season show is different when the episodes are like almost hour and a half. Like Bob mentioned, some of them were almost felt like you're watching 8 seasons. 8 seasons. That's pretty good. And I'm sure the episodes were an hour long, so that's a lot of time to commit. I don't think we're gonna get shit like that anymore. I think we're lucky. The thing to do now is maybe like shoot for 4 seasons. Hopefully you can get, everything worked out, taken care of, and covered and ended, because we're not going to see that anymore. I don't think we're going to see 10 season shows, 15 season shows. So we just got to hope that the shows that we're watching right now, they're like I don't know how many more seasons of The Boys we have left. And speaking of, Kripke is the show right. Kripke was the show right for Supernatural for the first 4 seasons. He only intended that to be like a 4-season show, and that's why he left. They kept going with the show without him. So I'm kind of hoping that situation doesn't happen with The Boys. I hope it's
2 more seasons
correctly. So I hope it's
2 more sounds about right.
Yeah.
I hope that what we watch now is, considering there are going to be smaller shows, 3 to 4 seasons at most, get their shit together. And
why do you want my good shows to end so quickly, Joseph?
I just don't think that they're gonna do it, dude.
Shows right now, they have to be 4 to 6 seasons. I don't think they can have that sustainability, because shows want to leave on top. That's why Breaking Bad ended after 6 seasons. That's why Cobra Kai, before it gets way too ridiculous, and some people were. That's
why it's kind of gotten there. It's already kind of.
So that's why they're ending it, because you have to go 4 to 6 seasons and call it quits, because everything else just seems too extra. Bob, what do you think?
I agree. It has to be 6 seasons, especially with the whole people can see it instantly. So you can't really have 10 fucking seasons when people see it. It comes out every June, but then they see it, June 1st, and they're done by June 2nd. They wait a year. Oh, I can't wait for the next season. And then I can't wait for the next season. But after the 4th season, they're probably like, I got moved on, man. It's been 4 fucking years. You know what I mean? And since it's so instant and you finish it so quickly, I don't think they can keep fans' attention for more than 4 seasons. So that's just me personally, considering how quickly we watch them. Now, if it's a TV show that's on cable network that's every week for 10, 12-week period, then that's a different story. But if it's on Netflix or something like that, or Hulu or Amazon Prime, where you get it all in one chingazo, in one little they release the entire season in one night, I think those kinds of shows, it's hard for them to keep lasting unless you have something amazing like, let's say, Stranger Things, where it's got this big cult following.
It's just like you said, Bob. You said Ted Lasso, right? Oh no, you said Chingasso, but Ted Lasso is ending after 3 seasons, and that's a great show. And it probably could have gone another 2 or 3 seasons, but they're ending it after this season just because, you know, what else can they do? We're gonna wrap up all the stories. And to your point, Bob, I'm looking at the ratings on IMDb on Game of Thrones. The last one got a 4.0 compared to all the other ones that are at least in the 7th. The last 3 episodes, everybody was disappointed with, but that last one really tanked. But I mean, I agree with you. I think, like, can we really see like a Wednesday go, 8, 9 seasons? You can't. All these other shows, Modern Family, Big Bang Theory, 2.5 Men, they all ran 10 plus years, and people got tired of them. I think the Goldbergs was getting old because what's his name? The father left the show, or he got kicked out. The grandfather passed away, and the show was at its last wheels. But I don't think you're going to see that much anymore. Not even with sitcoms. I think sitcoms 6 to 8 seasons tops, I think.
I just wanted to give a shout out and congratulations to Brendan Fraser for tonight winning outstanding performance, best male actor in leading role for the Screen Actors Guild Awards. Everyone that he's nominated in against that kid who did a shitty Elvis.
No, he was good. He was good.
I'm just praying that he wins all of those.
Thank you very much.
He didn't win the last one. I forgot what it was. The last big one that just happened to. The kid took it. But Fraser won this one. I'm really hoping he gets the next big one. I think is the Academy Award. Oh, God willing, he gets that, man.
Yeah, I mean, we love Brendan Fraser. He's so awesome. So before we go, guys, we got a fan email or a listener. We got a listener email, guys. So we're gonna go ahead and read that, and then maybe take a minute or two to respond before we sign off. So this email comes to us from Rites of Spring fan, Rites of Spring, which is a big '80s punk band, great band. So he writes. Dear Casey Kasem. No, he writes, first and foremost, I would like to say I am a big fan of the show. Thank you. I love the contrasting points of view from all the dudes. The academic, the jokester, and the rocker. Typically, everyone stays in their lane and shines in their own expertise. However, on February 22nd, when listening to the Best Emo Song episode, I was very disappointed in the direction it went. Randall, the show's architect, thank you again, was extremely criticized for the selection of his pick. I like this guy already. Vindicated by Dashboard Confessional. A very solid choice. I didn't write this. As everyone is entitled to their own opinion, as music is subjective and emo can be defined in a multitude of ways, I couldn't believe the amount of shit he received, as he is the most judicious and diplomatic guy around. Thanks. That really caught me off guard, and I was surprised. The whole point of the show is to have a spicy take or to bring something out of left field. That's another aspect of what makes this show cool. When the fellas aren't experts in the subject, but they put their best foot forward to provide insightful commentary. Rand made a fine pick, but was regulated. I guess he knows me. Rand made a fine pick, but was regulated to the bench for a decent C pick. I think it was a B minus. Anyway, the punishment did not fit the crime. I hope this is not a path the pod proceeds to in the future, as its strength is when all 3 stars shine. What do you guys think about this email?
Okay, Alex, quit drinking and typing his emails. Get the fuck out of here, bro.
I don't think it was Alex.
Oh, you know it was him. Look, Randall, I could sound real smart too if I type you an email. Give me a fucking break. I guarantee you that.
I don't think it was Alex. Alex, if you're out there, respond.
Yeah. He's like, I can disguise it and everything. I think that I think that, if you don't want to get a C grade, then make a better pick, Randall. Vindicated. It was screaming infidelities. God damn it. It was screaming infidelities.
I have a hard time.
I think that was funny. Go ahead, Joseph.
I have a hard time thinking that Randy didn't write that.
I did not. I swear. I told you. I promise.
It's definitely Alex.
No.
Alex. You want to know how I can tell it was Alex? Because or one of Randy's close friends, because he used Rand, and nobody calls Rand. First, he said. So I guarantee you, it's something like that. Like he's.
But my response to that would be, Rand's gonna say.
Rand's gonna say.
Well, Rand's going to say, drink. Rand's going to say, your choice in artists was tremendous. But yeah, nobody, thank you, at least listener, for telling us that you thought Vindicated was a great song. We didn't say Vindicated was a bad song. We just said there was better options for Rand to pick.
I think that
I said Rand right now because I'm his friend.
They're more disappointed that we shot Randall's pick down. He's like, but Randy's so nice to me. I need to defend Randall's honor by somehow writing an
perfectly
email.
fine with that.
But that was
Hopefully somebody will read it.
But thank you. Hopefully I didn't disappoint you. I didn't upset you today and by
Hurting Randall's feelings.
hurting. Yeah, because I don't believe I hurt Randy's feelings today.
No, like I always say, we have the most intelligent listeners out of any independent podcast. So we always welcome emails, and we will read them on the following show. So please don't hesitate to send us any emails. And that's our show, everyone. Listeners, we'd love to hear from you. Hit us up and let us know what your favorite or what the worst TV series finale is of all time. Most importantly, let us know what you think about the show. You may reach us at formidableopponents@gmail.com. As proof, we will read your email on the following show. And you can follow us on all forms of social media by searching for Formidable Opponents. We want to thank Creative Little Pill for her great artwork. Please follow her on Instagram at Creative Little Pill. Please rate and review us on Apple and Spotify. And join us next episode. We'll be in next week with best drinking songs. So for Bob and Joseph, this is Randall. We'll see you all next time.
Well, that's going to be a great episode. Best drinking song. I like it.
I'm ready.
How come you don't want me, man?
I'm already thinking of something.
I was in the pool. All right.